Hi, this video is on the 2016 Econ 1 past paper for the new specification on AQA. We're going to look at the first 5 multiple choice questions in this past paper. Question 1 starts by asking, in a free market economy, the economic problem of what goods should be produced is usually solved by, and then we have our 4 options. The economic problem is what to produce, how to produce it, and how to distribute it. In a free market economy, the economic problem is solved by market forces. So this question is just looking at the first part of the economic problem, which is what goods and services to be produced. In a free market economy, it is consumers who determine what goods and services are produced, and they do this by expressing their tastes and preferences in their pattern of expenditure. Therefore, the answer to this question is A. If we were to modify the question slightly and assume that rather than a free market economy, it was a command economy, and a command economy is when the government decides how to solve the economic problem, then the government would decide what goods and services to produce, how to produce these goods, and how to distribute these goods as well. So let's go on to question 2. The diagram below shows a production possibility boundary for an economy that produces goods and services. From the diagram, it can be concluded that, and then we have our 4 options. All of the 4 options are about productively efficient and allocatively efficient. Productive efficiency is a situation in which the economy cannot produce any more of one good without sacrificing the production of another good. It is where we are producing on our productive possibility boundary. So from looking at the diagram, we can see that point X and point Y are both on the production possibility boundary. Therefore, these points are both productively efficient. Allocative efficiency is when there is an optimal distribution of goods and services taking into account consumers' preferences. The production possibility boundary doesn't tell us anything about consumer preferences. All it tells us is how many goods and services or what combinations of goods and services our economy can produce if all of the resources were being used. Therefore, we cannot comment about allocative efficiency from this diagram. Thus, the answer to this question is D. Question 3 says a demand curve is drawn on the assumption that, and then we have our 4 options. A demand curve plots price against quantity, and the only thing that changes along the demand curve is price. All the other factors affecting demand remain constant. So we can see the answer to this question is D. If we bring up the function of demand, we can see that demand is a function of price, the price of other goods, income, taste, and expectations. Price is the only one of these variables to result in a movement up or down the demand curve. A change in any of the other factors will result in a shift. Option A says quantity demanded always increases as the price falls, and this isn't always true. It could be the case that demand is flat, or it could be the case that demand is upward sloping. B and C are also quite clearly wrong. Question 4 asks, monopoly can provide an example of market failure because firms with monopoly power can ... A monopoly can restrict output, which raises the price, and this can cause the monopoly to increase their profit levels. However, the monopoly may not necessarily act in this way. Therefore, we need to be careful with this question to say whether they always do it, or they may, or they have like the opportunity to do it. For example, if we look at option C, it says that monopoly would always charge high prices and earn high profits. But they don't have to do that. They could choose to keep the price fairly low and just have normal profits. And for this reason, C is wrong. Option B is may produce a lower output less efficiently than would be supplied by a competitive market. And this is correct. This is because the monopoly may choose to restrict output, and this would cause the price to increase, and this may increase profit for this firm. The firm is able to restrict output or raise the price because they are the sole producer of this good or service. If you want to purchase this good or service, you have to do it from the monopoly, and there are no other firms producing this good or service. As the monopoly is restricting output, it is likely that this is going to be at the cost of efficiency, and the cost of the firm will likely rise. Therefore, the answer to this question is B, because the monopoly may choose to lower output, and they are able to because they are a monopoly, and their production point may be less efficient than in a competitive market. This brings us on to the last question in this video, which is question 5. The cross-elasticity of demand between good X and good Y is positive. This implies that they are ... Cross-elasticity of demand is measured by the percentage change in quantity demanded of good B divided by the percentage change in the price of good A. There are 3 types of relationships between goods. One is substitute goods, the other is complementary goods, and the final one is unrelated goods. A substitute good is where individuals swap one good for another. An example would be Pepsi and Coke, and if the price of Pepsi was to rise, it may result in some individuals switching from consuming Pepsi to consuming Coke. Cross-elasticity of demand for substitute goods will be positive. Therefore, the answer for this question is B. The second type of relationship between goods is complementary goods. Complementary goods have a greater utility when they are consumed together. An example is cheese and wine, or burgers and burger rolls. If the price of one of the complementary goods was to increase, it would result in a lower level of demand for the other good. So suppose the price of burgers doubled. This would cause less burgers to be demanded, and thus would cause less burger rolls to also be demanded. Complementary goods have a negative value for cross-elasticity of demand, and this is because the quantity demanded and the price changes move in opposite directions. The final relationship between goods is unrelated goods. An example of this would be hockey sticks and apples. If the price of apples was to increase, it would have no effects on the market for hockey sticks. Therefore, the value for cross-elasticity of demand for unrelated goods is 0. Videos for the rest of this past paper can be found on YouTube, or they can be found on the website. There is a link in the description.